Coming up this morning, it is a love fest with Taysom Hill and this whole new offense, this brand new offense. Everything's right with the world, right? But just how much will Taysom be a part of it all? And will his new role mean even less passing and catching, maybe more running and blocking? What does DA have to say about all this? I know you can't wait on that one. The number one topic the first week has been run the ball, and run the ball again. Oh, and then run some more if you can't do that. Don't you need an O-line to be able to do that? What are the biggest surprises so far in camp? And who could break out on defense? I have my number one candidate. We hear from Taysom Hill. We hear from Dennis Allen. And we hear from Payton Turner. I am fumbling this morning on a Monday. That's okay. Everything's all right with the world because we can scoop up the ball and get going. That's all next. I hope you don't mind that it's just Gabe, you, and me. Let's chat. Let's do it next on the Dattitude podcast.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who are counting down to, no, not the first preseason game, the first day of school, 11 days. My daughter told me I can't use the S word. And then I realized she meant school. The only S word we have for you this morning is Saints, and we'll use it early and often on Dattitude, episode number 259, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, July the 29th, 2024. I am your host, your fumbling, bumbling Monday host, Jim Derry. And whether you're watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or listening on demand to the podcast, as always, I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. Monday. Can't trust that day. I am old. That is an old song for you youngsters. Go look it up on Google. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But we're going to be okay because we have a lot to talk about this morning. You know, we've kind of decided, I think Monday during the football season is going to be, I was thinking like trying to think of a name for it, but Mono Monday sounds like you're sick. So I didn't want to go with that. And I couldn't think of anything that goes. So I'm alone on Monday. I think we're going to start it now. We'll see how it goes. But we're not really alone because you can be a part of the show by typing in your comment on YouTube or Facebook, and we're working on X again. We're not back yet, but we're getting there. We ask if you haven't already done so to subscribe to our YouTube page, where you will always know when we go on the air live, as well as have access to all the shows and short takes that Gabe does so wonderfully. We had a bunch. We had some comments. Some people from not around New Orleans didn't necessarily like some of the takes that I made, especially Broncos fans. Now, they could be our New Orleanians that are Sean Payton lovers. I don't know. But they did not like the Broncos preview. Keep hating on the Broncos. Somebody got really pissed because I said their offensive line is bottom third. They are bottom third. Now, PFF has them, I think, 16th, which is dead center. But if you go through and look at their team and, you know, they have some questionable issues at one of their tackle positions. They've got a guard that's coming off of a broken leg. They've got other issues too. So we'll see. Besides the fact that who cares if their offensive line is any good, because I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball and they don't have any receivers worth a damn. But I'll keep hating on them. Doesn't matter. We got a lot of comments. Do we really have 15 comments, Gabe? What's going on here? A lot of our friends talking to one another. That's good. Jerry, what's going on this morning? A-Town, let's go. Let's go in a different, let's go. We got, Jerry's talking about the pads coming on today. Rocky, good morning. Kyle, I am most definitely keeping it positive, brother. That is what we are doing this morning. There's all kinds of stuff to talk about. Kyle says he's in Manhattan Beach, California. I don't know. Is that close to Irvine? I have no idea. You can let me know. I should lead off every Monday with the Monday. You're right. Monday. Can't trust that day. You don't want to hear me sing. That's about all you're going to get from me this morning. All right. We got a lot to talk about. Not all of it is Saints, by the way. We're going to start off with something a little bit different in just a minute. And first, we had some sad news to start the show last Friday. We got some sad news, not as sad as last Friday, but our friend Ed Daniels, WGNO sports director, the longest serving sports director in the New Orleans metro area, and maybe even more than that. I mean, he's been at WGNO for as long as I can remember and doing Friday Night Football since right after I started in this business. Now, he was in the business a lot longer than me. Ed Daniels suffered a heart attack this past weekend at Saints camp, and our prayers go out to him. We need him back. So prayers to Ed. Hopefully everything is okay. It was not a good situation, but we have prayers, and you know how strong prayers are. So we're rooting for Ed. He was a guest on this show. It's been a little while now. He came on the show before they had their, I believe it was their, was it the 30th anniversary season they were about to kick off of Friday Night Football? I'm not sure, but he's been on the show, and we pray that everything's okay with that. So positive thoughts. No joking about Derek Carr's positivity, real positivity to Ed Daniels. And no question about that, Jerry. All right. We're going to talk about Saints today. It's going to be focusing on Taysom Hill. Is his new role different than it's been in the past? Some interesting comments. And, when you're talking about the Saints, you kind of have to read between the lines. That's kind of what we're doing, and that's why we're going to play some clips from their interviews from this past weekend. The pads do go on today, so it gets real on Monday. It definitely gets real this morning out in Irvine. They're practicing, I think, as we speak. So Gabe will be monitoring that. Not a lot comes out of practice because they're so tight-lipped at Saints camp. You can't use social media. You can't even use your phone when you're at camp. So if something really bad happened, we probably wouldn't find out until they let them walk out of the room, walk out of camp. So anyway, we'll be monitoring anyway and see if that goes on. But we're going to talk a lot about Taysom Hill. We're going to be talking a lot about this newfangled running game. All I've been hearing about is the running game. That's great. Don't you need an O-line to be able to do that? Maybe not. And I'm not kidding. No kidding. All kidding aside. They're trying to find ways, I think, and one thing that Klint Kubiak was successful with at San Francisco. Now, granted, their line probably wasn't as, I'm going to be nice, rough as this one, but there are ways around. I've been reading things that you can have one weak link on the offensive line, but maybe you can't have two. I don't know. We're going to talk about that. We're going to hear from Taysom Hill. We're going to hear from Dennis Allen. Got two clips from Dennis Allen. And then later in the show, we're going to hear from Payton Turner, because we're going to talk about, it's not on this list here, but one of the things I want to talk about, and you saw it on the front slide there, was I am interested to see what some other people's takes are. Who is going to be your surprise breakout player? And it doesn't have to be defense. I'm talking about defensive, maybe surprise players and breakout players. But if you have one on offense, bring that up as well. Been hearing a lot about, Mason Tipton, Jordan Mims may get a lot of playing time. We'll talk about him as well. But mine is Payton Turner. So we have a little clip from Payton Turner. I'll tell you why I think it's him coming up. That's all coming up. But, first, I want to get something out of the way. This weekend, there was so much talk about the Olympic ceremonies, the opening ceremonies. And I was trying to think of a way to express my feelings without pissing anybody off, because it's such a polarizing topic, which is really dumb. I mean, it's come on. So my thoughts are this. So many people were offended because let's just throw the picture up there. Well, let's just throw the picture up there. This is the picture that everyone is looking at and talking about of this weekend's opening ceremonies. Now, some people thought it was a depiction of the Last Supper. Some people think it's Greek mythology, whatever. I wasn't offended by it. Just thought it was stupid. I didn't think it was the Last Supper. I thought it was a tribute to Star Wars. Look, there's Princess Leia there in the middle. There's a bunch of lightsabers over her head. I think those things change colors. I'm not sure which one's Chewbacca. You can pick. But really, what is the big deal? I just thought it was dumb. That was my thing. We get so fired up about stuff. Everyone gets so fired up about everything. I mean, geez. My almost 13-year-old daughter asked me who they were supposed to be, and I said, I had no idea. I still don't. My big question with this is, what does this have to do with the Olympic Games? That's why I thought it was dumb. I'm not a big Olympics fan anyway, so whatever. I mean, I may watch a total of, I don't know. I'll probably watch some basketball. I like water polo. I actually watch maybe a little bit of the water polo if it's on and I have nothing else to do. I'll probably watch some of the golf. I don't know, swimming if I'm really bored, but I don't get into it all really. I try to, but I can't. But people get so uptight about everything. Good Lord. Some other comments. Let's see. I'm making sure that I don't pick wrong things to put up here. Rocky says, looks like a group of dumbass people to me. I mean, I don't know that they're dumbass. They're just doing whatever here's the skit, go do it. I think it's more the people who put it together. Twins talking about the Saints, and we're going to get back to the Saints. Shaheed and Kool-Aid. That's Twins breakout players. Oh, yeah. Jerry, you brought this up. I thought this was awesome. I wish I had a clip of this. I should have done this. Beast mode in rugby, stiff arming one of the Japan female players. That was the moment. You're right. That's what I should have talked about. That if you haven't seen that, go Google that or go find it on X or whatever. The stiff arm in female rugby, that might be the highlight of the entire Olympics. So there you go. I had to bring it up. I just thought it was dumb. I did think it was cool, though, how the athletes rode in on ferry boats, like completely serious. My daughter wanted to know more about the countries as we were watching it, and she was like watching how many athletes each country had. Some of them only had 3 athletes or 5 athletes. Or country. There were countries I'd never heard of in there. Not that means anything, but I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. And watching them, how excited they were. Now, that's what I want to watch when I watch opening ceremonies. So my daughter did get into that. So in a way, it was kind of a geography lesson. We decided we want to go on a vacation to Tonga. I've heard of Tonga, but I didn't know anything about it. I looked it up. I'm like, beautiful country. Need to go there. How about you? You want to go to Tonga or Mauritania or somewhere else with pretty blue water? You know who you can help get you there? My friends at Evangeline Securities. How can they do that? Well, if you've been thinking about selling your family-run or privately held business, then listen to this. Evangeline's managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt, will first help you with what might be the toughest challenge of all, figuring out what your business is worth. And going forward, they will maximize the value of your business by scheduling a complimentary valuation. By the way, Nick and Ron both grew up in New Orleans. They spent some time at those, big-name business schools that are way above my intellect. They wouldn't even let me go there and eat lunch. Then they went to New York and spent some time in the financial world there. They came home to help the people who need them, the people they love. They have offices here on Poydras Street and in Lafayette. More on this later in the show. But in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. My friend Sav, the O-line depth terrifies him. We'll see how this plays out starting today. It's not just the depth. It's more than depth, but it's time before we get into just the Saints and all the clips that we have to talk about today. It's Mondays with Gabe. Now, we're Mondays and Wednesdays. We're bringing in Gabe Henderson because he's more than just behind the scenes. We want to hear what he has to say. And he usually has some good thoughts. I usually don't really know what he's going to say. I kind of have an idea this morning. Let's bring him in. Gabe Henderson. Monday. I can't trust that.
A few things. First, as someone who has taken a ferry down the Seine, it is gorgeous.
Really?
I would highly recommend it for anyone who goes to Paris.
See, I know the Seine is a river.
Yeah.
And I know how to spell it only because I took French in high school and college. Seine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'll take a ride down the Seine.
As someone who's not the biggest fan of Paris, I did think that the ride down the Seine is probably the best part. If you want to get all your sightseeing done in an hour, 2 hours, there you go. Do that.
There you go. All right. What you got for me sports wise? Real sports.
Well, as far as the Olympics, are people upset because they think it looks like The Last Supper?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're
I feel qualified to talk. I feel qualified to talk about this because I'm a history minor.
Okay. History is also my thing as well.
Do people realize that The Last Supper is just a painting? It's not actually depicting the Last Supper of Jesus. Do they realize that?
I think it's more that people are that there are some Christians out there, and again, I don't want to get into the philosophy here, but I think it's
of course.
more that Christians feel that they were mocking Jesus, and I didn't get that at all out of what I watched. And you know, I'm a New Orleans Catholic boy, grew up, not everybody, but you know, a lot of people grew up in New Orleans, they're Catholics. I mean, I grew up a New Orleans Catholic boy, and I watched it, and I never thought that for 1 second. So
yeah,
I just thought it was dumb.
I don't get the controversy about any of it. I would say the menage a trois is the one thing that was controversial from the Olympic
Well, I will say there was part of it that
people would be upset about.
There were definitely parts of it that I'm not sure that I wanted my, again, almost 13-year-old daughter to watch, but then, you know.
But having the French always been a little more promiscuous.
Yeah, you could say that about the French, I guess. There's lots of things you could say.
You could say a lot of things about the French.
And I'm like 40% French. So I guess, you know, my grandparents spoke French to each other in the house, which is part of the reason why I wanted to learn French. But, you know, what it is.
I'm all for, as a descendant and a citizen of the UK, I'm all for hating on the French, but I just don't understand this. In terms of sports, you were talking earlier about S words. And
I was.
And I've got another S word for you this morning.
Okay.
It's silly. And that's what I think the Raiders are. I don't know if you saw their little skit. A few of their rookies had a Kermit the Frog doll, and they were mocking Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, they're mocking Patrick Mahomes. I mean,
they're mocking Patrick Mahomes.
Mocking Patrick Mahomes. A few rookies, and
was it? So it wasn't Max Crosby doing it.
No, I don't know the extent of it, but here's the thing. But Patrick Mahomes, he spoke out on it, and he said, "quote It'll get handled when it gets handled."
Yeah. I bet
that
it will.
Sounds like someone who's 9-2 against the Raiders in his career. That sounds
why
like
would you want to piss off?
Yeah.
Why would you want to piss off the best player in the NFL?
I don't get it. And not only that, the starting quarterback of the team that has won your division 8 years in a row, the guy who's going to make it 9, the quarterback who has a chance to do something that no other team has done this year and win 3 Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Raiders. Circling back to Friday, you asked me to get these odds. The Raiders are plus 900 to have the worst record in the NFL. That is joint fifth with the retirement home that is the Tennessee Titans.
I don't know if I necessarily like that because I think they have too much talent on defense to be the worst team in the NFL, but it could all fall apart. And I really like Antonio Pierce, so I don't know but that's not that bad of a value. That's why the Raiders will never reach their goal. What is the Raiders' goal, do we think?
Stay afloat.
Yeah. Not win 7 games. Second. Win 8 games. I don't know.
Maybe the Raiders beat Patrick Mahomes once.
Yeah. Look, I've made it clear. I think the Raiders and Broncos are going to be fighting for the bottom spot of the division in the AFC West. We did that show on Friday. If you missed it and you want to hear the whole preview, you can go back. Larry Holder is with me every Friday from now until we finish an 8-part series. Part 3 coming up this Friday. I'm looking forward to it because it'll be the AFC North, a real division. With real competition in there, because this is no AFC West, no competition. I mean, whether you think the Chargers and Broncos will improve, it doesn't really make a difference because none of them are the Chiefs. And if any of them beat the Chiefs, I'll be shocked. So that's my opinion.
I will say the Chiefs do find a way to almost always lose one division game per year.
That's true.
But And I will say, to the point about the Raiders, I think they're going to be better on the field than what their roster looks like. I know you guys
Yeah.
kind of went down their depth chart the other day, and I think it's easy to forget how good Zamir White was last year. I'm also skeptical as to how he's going to be as a number one back, how he's going to handle that workload, especially considering Josh Jacobs has led them in rushing for the last half decade.
Yeah, but the
I think they'll
problem
be
is
better.
not just Zamir White, and I have no problem with Zamir White. I drafted him in
Yeah.
fantasy football last year because I actually thought, Josh Jacobs seemed to be disgruntled. I didn't know whether he would make it through the season there or not, and I thought he had a chance to be something. But the problem is, it's kind of like the same with the Broncos. Javonte Williams is fine, but once you get past that, you can't just have one. And you've got to have 3 decent running backs these days, in my opinion, to be any good. Now, unless you're like the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't need that because they have Mahomes who, if you have a mobile quarterback, that can suffice as kind of another running back because he can move around. And Mahomes can just do things that people can't do. So it's a little different there. But I just don't I think if you don't have at least 2 really good running backs and a solid third, you're going up against the win. It's why, spoiler alert, I think Dallas is going to super struggle this year because they don't have any. They're trying to recycle Zeke Elliott and back from the dead. And I just, teams that don't have running backs, it's going to be a main topic of what we talk about with the Saints today, about the run game. And it's why Klint Kubiak is coming in here and saying, we've got to be able to run the ball and we got to be able to establish the run so we can use this play action pass, which is obviously a staple of this offense. So good segue, but I think that's key. I mean, on offense, you can have the best receivers on the planet. If you can't run the ball, you've got nothing.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Raiders are going to be a playoff team by any means. I just don't think there's not enough value there at plus 900 for me to bet them to be the worst team in the league. Especially because I think of Gardner Minshew a lot higher than a lot of people. Maybe that's because he's spent a lot of time in my division.
I still think it's be Aiden O'Connell. I know.
I can't imagine they would sign Gardner Minshew.
I think they're going to,
especially given how well he played this year. Gardner Minshew played really well for the Colts.
The leash may be short, but I think they're going to start with Aiden O'Connell, and if they start 1-3 or something, then we'll see. But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And one more thought in kind of going back to the segue with the Saints. My surprise player, I think, is going to be A.T. Perry. I've always liked his intangibles. I think he's got all the makings of a good receiver. And I know you like Cedric Wilson to be the number 3. I think A.T. Perry could easily slot in there and take that spot. I like the way he performed toward the end of last year.
I don't think it matters whether he's number 3 or number 4, because I think number 3 and number 4 with this offense, they're both going to play a lot. And I think 3 and 4 are going to kind of be interchangeable. They're 2 different kinds of receivers, in my opinion. So Cedric Wilson is more of a, veteran. I'm not scared to go across the middle, but I'm going to be a part of this offense kind of thing. So I think you'll see a lot of 4 receiver sets, especially with the fact that they don't really have enough tight end help to make it so they can't do that right now. Maybe Taysom fits in there, but I don't disagree with you. I think this is going to be the year where we find out if A.T. Perry can take that next step and become the guy that you want him to be. So I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think that for this team, with what they have, I think they need that veteran presence in there. And I think that's what Cedric Wilson brings. Because you talk about Olave and Shaheed, they're both quote unquote veterans now, but you really need a guy that's been in there and been in the trenches. And I think that's what Cedric Wilson really brings to you. And I think that's why I think you'll see him play more snaps than A.T. Perry. But again, it wouldn't surprise me at all if A.T. Perry is the guy. If one receiver broke out, obviously Olave's a Pro Bowl receiver already, but if one receiver took the next step, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was A.T. Perry.
Yeah, I didn't even think of the tight end angle, A.T. Perry's that big physical receiver, and you just don't have that elsewhere.
Yeah, they're going to.
I do think that's a good point. With Juwan Johnson health questionable, I think A.T. Perry could definitely be. Now, obviously not slot in as a tight end. That's
right.
That's something that only happens in video games, but I think if you're talking in terms of production from a big body like that, A.T. Perry is a good candidate.
Well, one thing for sure is this team is going to need to be more physical if they're going to take that next step, and I think that's what they're trying to do. So we'll see if it happens or not. Gabe, we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Sounds good.
Gabe Henderson, no longer just behind the scenes. You get to see his face, and we get to talk to him. every Monday and Wednesday here on the show, and that'll be that's what we're doing now, Mondays and Wednesdays. And we'll also plan on getting his picks as we do. Our Thursday show during the regular season will be just a pick show. I haven't finalized it just yet, so I don't want to give you too many details, but we will have kind of a similar contest to what we had with Bayou Bets the last couple years, and have our pick segment and our big bucks. We're going to do it a little bit different though, but we're going to have something on that. All right, let's get to our main topic in the Saints. And again, we got some clips to run for you. Excited about the pads coming on today. Look, at any point, by the way, if you have any comments here on the Dattitude podcast this Monday morning, presented to you by Evangeline Securities, if you want to get in the comment stream, I don't care if, whatever. If you got something to say it. We'll show it here on the show. It's just me and you talking here this morning. Got a lot of things to talk about, even if it's off topic, as long as it's about the Saints, because that's what the rest of the show is about, at least until the extra point. Taysom's role. Now, when I was listening to both his press conference and Dennis Allen's press conference over the weekend, I found it interesting. There's one particular clip, and I think all of these clips, at least the DA and the Taysom Hill, not so much Payton Turner, which we'll get to later, but I think they're all questions asked by Matthew Paris. And obviously he did it for angles of stories he's writing. But Taysom has clearly not been a part so far. And again, it's early. We're only, 4 practices in. And we had the OTAs. But he's not throwing the ball. He's not being a part of this passing game. Does that mean he's going to line up less at quarterback than he's lined up before? I'm not sure. And I find it interesting because we know that's what worked so well. Of the things that didn't work under Pete Carmichael's, this wasn't one of them. If you had a 3rd and 1, you put Taysom behind the center, you had about an 85 to 90% chance of getting it. They could know it's coming, and you still were going to get it, right? So, but what we hear from the coaching staff and what we hear from Taysom Hill himself kind of leads me to believe that he's going to have a more important role elsewhere. I think you're going to see Taysom Hill blocking more. And why not? I mean, of course he's a big part of the running game, but he's also going to be a big part of the blocking game. And one of the things that Matt asked Dennis Allen was, when you hired Klint Kubiak, was this a part of your strategy? Did you make sure that Kubiak understood what he was getting himself into and that he had to find a way to use the Swiss Army knife? Let's hear it.
I know Taysom hasn't been a traditional quarterback in a while now here, but I don't think we've seen him throw a pass in a minute. Just how is he kind of handling that?
Awesome. Yeah, he's been awesome. He's handled everything that we've thrown at him, and we've thrown a lot at him. He's playing a lot of different positions, a lot of different areas, motions, shifts, alignments, positions. But he's handled it like a true pro. And look, there's a lot of guys that have an athletic skill set, but you can't throw that much on them because they can't handle it mentally. This is a guy that can handle a ton mentally, and it's been fun for me to see a fresh vision for how we can utilize this player. It's not just as the Wildcat quarterback. There's a lot of other things that this guy can do, both in the running game and the passing game.
When you were interviewing offensive coordinator candidates, how much did you bring up Taysom's role, or were you interested to see if those candidates had a vision for Taysom, and then in relation to Klint, did something sell you about?
I don't think it was really that. I think it was mostly about not him in particular, but just, okay, what's the scheme? What are the things that you believe in? And then within that, how do you adjust your scheme to fit what some of your guys can do? And certainly Taysom's name came up in conversation, but it wasn't like that was a huge, talking point.
I guarantee you Taysom's name, he said Taysom's name came up in conversation. I would be willing to bet that after Derek Carr, Taysom Hill was the first name that was brought up. Jerry says he thinks that Taysom will be a full participant in the fullback role, fullback one. I don't disagree with that at all. Again, I've been likening him in this new offense most likely to be a Kyle Juszczyk type, except the fact that Taysom will be more involved in the running game. I don't think there's any question that that's the case, and I think he has to be. So whether he lines up at fullback or look, that's one thing he didn't do a whole lot of last year or in any year really is line up in the backfield, except at quarterback. So I think that you may see him more in a role instead of lining up behind center, he lines up behind Derek Carr and still gets the ball. How will that change? You can still move him around. He can still get to the outside. You can do pitches. You can do sweeps. You can run up the gut if you have to. That depends on how good the O-line's going to be. Again, a lot dependent on this O-line. I'm going to take some comments in just a minute. Off topic a little bit, A-Town. Would I want to see Rattler in a Wildcat package? Look, here's my thing with Rattler, and I'm not trying to be Derry Downer on Rattler because I've told most of you my opinions of what I think about Rattler. But that being said, they made the pick. Let's move on. Let's make him a part of this team if they can. I just don't know if he's going to win that number 2 job. Now, the news this weekend, obviously, about Jake Hayner's, if you didn't hear, Jake Hayner has some rare form of skin cancer on his face. As someone that has had skin cancer on his face, I understand that. His obviously sounds a little bit more serious than what I had, but will that affect him into this season? I don't know. So maybe Rattler has a leg up now winning the number 2 job. I'm not sure. Going back to A-Town's point is if Rattler isn't the number 2 quarterback, I don't see how you could possibly use 3 roster spots on game day to have 3 quarterbacks active. In other words, I don't see how Rattler wouldn't be anything other than emergency quarterback. That's my guess, and not be a part of the active day roster. So I'm not sure. I'm not saying no, because if he becomes the number 2 quarterback, I do think that you might see they will try to incorporate him in there, I think, at some point. Whoever the number 2 quarterback is, I think they're gonna find ways to get them in games at different points. Again, that doesn't have anything to do with Taysom. It's off topic. But, that's what I think there. Jason, when they get desperate, and they will, he will get touches at quarterback. I don't disagree with you, Jason. I'm just saying that what I think is I think you'll see less of him at quarterback than we've seen in the past. I should have brought up how many snaps he had at quarterback last year, but I didn't. Monday, baby. Monday. So but I think you will see less, but I think it will be more consistent. And the biggest problem I had with Carmichael and using Taysom Hill was it was so inconsistent. You'd see Taysom Hill get 12, 15 touches a game in games that they were very successful in. And then games they stunk in, he didn't really touch the ball at all. And it'd be from one game to the next. It's the reason why this team couldn't string together back-to-back wins. The reason why they finished 9-8. I mean, other than the 4-game winning streak at the end of the 22 season, this team just can't string together wins, and it's one of the biggest problems I had. So I don't know. Rocky says something happens to Carr. Kubiak turns to no way. No way. No way. His days as being a quarterback are done. He needs to do what Taysom does. I definitely agree with that. Let's hear what Taysom Hill, and this is why Rocky especially, I don't think there's any chance. This is why I 100% believe his days of being a legit backup quarterback are over. Now, last year, obviously, last 2 years of Ed Jameis, backup, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you listen to when Matt asked him about he's not really throwing a ball. He's throwing a ball around for fun. But he knows his role is going to be super important as we go forward.
What I'm going to be doing is we're still trying to figure that out, and when you get to training camp, you're not game planning stuff, right? You're not putting some of these, maybe more exotic packages that you would call, but we're just trying to get our base stuff in, and we're 3 installs into it, so we haven't hit any of those unique packages that you would say. So I don't know if that's fair to say. I haven't talked to Klint about that specifically.
When's the last time you threw a pass? Has thrown a pass?
You're talking like in a practice in a team
or just
setting,
like,
or what?
I mean, like, I don't know, if you're working out over the summer, like, do you still throw?
Yeah, I throw balls. I throw a ball. I'll throw a ball every day at some point, just to make sure I still can.
Has that been weird for you not to throw as maybe frequently as, I know you've been doing this a couple of years now, but like...
No, it hasn't. I think it's one of those things that I still feel really comfortable and confident doing that. And it's trying to spend time on things that I, haven't had a ton of time on task doing. And so I try to do my best at getting exposure to all those things. So that is something that I'll never let, slip.
I throw a ball every day just to make sure that I still can. That doesn't tell me that he's going to be any part of passing. And honestly, if he's going to take as many snaps he took at quarterback before, even if he's running 85 to 90% of the time, you still got to be able to throw the ball. You can't just, I don't care what offensive scheme you're playing and how whatever is different. You've got to still be able to, if you're going to play that wildcat type offense with him in there as a quarterback, you still have to be able to throw the ball. Now, maybe, again, it's July 29th. So maybe as they go forward, maybe he will throw the ball more. I'm not sure. But Rocky's asking, does the case that they truly hand it to Rattler or Haener as a backup or snag a vet? I mean, what vet are you going to snag? I mean, Nathan Peterman's already on the roster. I don't know if he makes this team. I mean, I was kind of predicting a couple months ago that they got him to be the number 2. But I'm on an island with that. Most people think that it's going to be Rattler. I will say this. I know I'm on an island because I think if it's either Rattler or Haener, I think it's Haener. Okay. I just don't think, I'm not saying Rattler won't be able to be a backup in the future or they won't give him a chance to do something, especially if they're not very good. If they're not very good, they're going to try all sorts of things later in the season. So, I mean, in a way, even if you love the Spencer Rattler pick, you really don't want him to play because if he's playing, it means this team's not any good. So I don't think they're going to go snag a vet in answer to your question. I think, first of all, and I've said this many times, if Derek Carr gets hurt, they're in deep trouble. This team's in deep trouble if Derek Carr gets hurt. More in the running game. And Jason, you're right. We're 3 installs in. Relax. Still trying to learn Kubiak's base offense. We'll get to his stuff later in camp. What I just said. It certainly could be. But one thing we have seen a lot of early on is the play action pass. Okay. And every story I read, whether it's our stories or someone else's, or every podcast I listen to about the Saints, whether it's Saints Insider, which you can also find on the NOLA.com Saints page, I think that I've heard play action probably about 150 times in the last week. Whether it be on message boards, it's all Garland Gillen, the Fox 8 crew, everyone, Doug Mouton's asking about it, everybody. That's all we're hearing. Is this the thing about the play action passes more than anything? You have to be able to run the football to use the play action pass. You can have it as a scheme, and it's something the Saints didn't have. And again, I don't want to keep dwelling on Sean Payton's little clipboard holder, but they couldn't do it last year, not only because it wasn't a big enough part of the playbook, but because they couldn't run the football. They didn't really try to run the football. That's the one thing that's got to change. You've got to be able to figure out cohesiveness with this O-line. And one thing we've been talking about is the number one thing that I like so far that I've seen in camp is the fact that Dennis Allen has said, and we talked about it Friday, I think, Dennis Allen has said, look, these are my 5 guys right now on the offensive line. They might not be the right 5 guys, and they might not be the 5 guys who start the season on September 8th. However, this is what his staff thinks are the top 5 guys in this order. And even if I don't necessarily agree with it, I like the fact that he is going to give them a chance and say, we're going to give them a chance to be coherent. We're not going to plug and play and keep making changes to the offensive line. They've got to be able to find cohesiveness. You have plenty of time to plug someone else in somewhere if you have to. But see how these 5 guys can do, at least for the first 2 weeks of camp and into that first preseason game. If Penning can't do it after then, you make a change. If Saldiveri can't play left guard, you make a change. Left guard isn't as worrisome to me because I think they have enough. I think their reserves are enough to where they can fill the hole of left guard. Right tackle worries the hell out of me. And not just because it's Trevor Penning, because I don't know if you have enough people who can play right tackle except the guy who is your left tackle right now. We'll see how it works. But Dennis Allen talks about this running game and the hype. And look, that's all anybody wanted to talk about at camp all weekend long. And he certainly talked about it on Saturday.
Dennis, can you get a sense of where the run game is right now before you guys go to pads?
Yeah, look, it's really hard to tell right now. Run game, run defense. It's hard to tell right now. We'll have a better feel for it when we're able to put the pads on and really thud up the ball carrier and things of that nature. And you will see a little bit more of. You get out into these environments sometimes and you're watching the play and, you don't, when we're not, really hitting or thudding everything up, it's hard to tell whether a guy could or couldn't make a play, right? And so I think we'll have a better idea when we put the pads on. But I do think there's some understanding of what we're trying to do. I think there's some cohesiveness, up front with how we're blocking things. I think our guys are working in concert pretty good together, so that's been encouraging.
A new DA-ism. Thudding things up. I got to put that one in the DA dictionary. We're going to thud things up, boys. You want to thud it up in the middle, don't you? Everybody wants to thud it up. Gabe says it sounds French. We're not going backwards, boys. We're only going forward. That's what I'm saying. We're going to thud it up here. All right. Before we move on to defense, what are your surprises for the year? What do you see so far? Well, you're not saying a whole lot, to be honest. But we've been hearing a lot of Mason Tipton, the 5'10", 179 speedy receiver from Yale. Right now, I'm looking at the depth chart, and one of the depth charts I looked at, he was number 10. Now, I think he's going to move up that chart, but there's been a lot of talk about him. Could he be look, one thing that's going to be important about special teams have never been more important, I don't think, than they are right now. We haven't talked enough about these new kickoff rules. Got to find someone who will be able to do it. Rocky saying back to the quarterback, just don't think Peterman will be kept. Jerry Peterman exit stage right? Maybe. But if you want a veteran quarterback, it's your best chance. Of course, you don't have to keep him because he'd probably be available. You could probably always get him back. So Mason Tipton. What about Jordan Mims? Had a chance last year. He started this time last year. He was a UDFA with the Buffalo Bills. Got cut. Saints picked him up, put him on a practice squad. He did dress, I think, 3 times. I think he only had 3 offensive snaps all year. But he's going to keep getting work as long as Kendra Miller is out. How long is that going to be? You know how it works with the Saints. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jackass, but they're not exactly the most open book in the NFL. So I don't think we know the answer. It's the same with, remember last year when the topic of conversation all training camp was, how bad is Andrus Peat hurt? When will we see him? And he finally showed up to practice dressed out, like, I don't know, the second week or whatever, and didn't get any real reps until like the 3rd week. And then Trevor Penning sucked so bad they had to use him at left tackle. Is that going to be the same with Kendra Miller? Or are we not going to see him for 2 weeks, 3 weeks? We don't know. I can tell you right now, if that's the case, enter Jordan Mims. Fresno State. What's the deal with Saints and Fresno State, by the way? Fresno State and Ohio State. And then no one's talking about James Robinson right now. He rushed for 1,000 yards his rookie season, had, I think, 16 touchdowns his first 2 seasons in the NFL. Then he had a Achilles tear, and he's tried to make a comeback, and he hasn't been able to. Maybe it'll be him. It's always someone, to me, that no one's really talked. You could talk about all these guys early in camp, but it doesn't really matter much, right? You got, what, a 90-man roster right now. Doesn't mean much right now. It's going to go way down. But I do want to talk about someone I think my surprise of the year. I don't want to call him a breakout player because he'd have to go a long way to become a breakout player. But I know he's been injured like all the time. He's always injured. Some people like Isaiah Foskey. They think he could take a next step. Maybe I'm biased because I hated that pick. I hope he does step up. I hope he does. Lots of talk around, right? I've heard a lot of talk about the defensive tackle from Northern Iowa, Christian Boyd, the 6th-round pick, 6'2", 320. And they need help in there. Could be him. But I really like Payton Turner. I think if he can – look, you can always say if he can shed these injuries, and we see it with Kendra Miller. Once you have become an injury problem, it usually doesn't go away. But maybe call it gut feeling, whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. But I just think that Payton Turner, this is the year that he takes a step up. I think that having a guy like Chase Young there and is going to be motivation for him. How much? I don't know. And yes, there's a glut of defensive ends on this team. So I think that if he doesn't step up, he might not even make the team. So I'm picking somebody that I think might not even make the team. But I just like Payton Turner's chances. They're going to give him every opportunity. A former first-round pick, you have to know, just kind of like DA, that this might be his last chance. And if you listen to what he says, I think he knows it. I think he knows where he is. And I loved what I heard from Payton Turner. I already liked him for this year anyway. And then when I heard this clip, or I heard his press conference and made this clip, it made me like him even more.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten pads in, but I feel good. It's good to be back out here moving around since, week 18, Atlanta. So I feel good. I feel healthy. And just getting out here with the guys, I think it's good. Just moving around, getting some pass rush, run technique in. I think it's every year we got something to prove, right? I think we're in a very unique spot because we got a second-year Foskey, right? Me and Chase going up, obviously, all here for 1 year. Cam, Grando. So, I mean, we all got something to prove. It's just a matter of who's going to go out there and produce. I think that we all got capability to come out there and produce, but this just kind of it is what it is. We're in competition right here, so it's whoever can go out and get it. Yeah, I think it's unique because, I've been here for training camps or practice or whatever, so I think a lot of people have seen it that are in the building, but it's a matter of me going out there in an NFL game and putting it out there for everybody to see. We do. We got to go out there and play. And I got to be available to play. So
he's got to be available. He knows he's got to be available. And I think we've seen little glimpses here and there, like he says, when he's been out there. But he knows. He knows he cannot get past another injury and at least stay with this team. Now, if he gets injured, somebody else would probably give him a chance, but certainly not as a starter. Not that he's going to get a chance to be a starter here, but I think this team is his best chance to work his way into a starting position. Let's be realistic. Chase Young is a 1-year rental. Payton Turner has the chance to get in there, make his moves, stay healthy, and potentially be a starter in 2025. How long is Cam going to play? I mean, we already know that Cam Jordan's going to see fewer snaps than he's ever seen. There's no doubt about it. And I think Cam Jordan's good with it. Somebody's got to step up. Will it be Foskey? Will it be Payton Turner? I think this is a huge season for him. I think he understands where he is, and I think this is the season that he really steps up. We'll see. All right, stick around for the extra point today. It is a good one. I enjoyed putting this. We have some interesting little fact nuggets. You're going to want to stick around to it and listen about these out-of-control quarterback contracts that are only going to get worse. But before we get to today's extra point, about these ridiculous quarterback contracts in the NFL. It is time to hear more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or privately owned business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? We told you this. You know this by now. You should have it memorized. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world and maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. So Tonga or Mauritania isn't your thing. Maybe you don't want to go ride down the Seine like Gabe Henderson. I don't know. But maybe you're thinking about a tour of NFL stadiums over the next few years. You know, the Saints do play in Miami, Los Angeles, and Seattle in 2025. And well, there's Buffalo too, but only if it's before Thanksgiving. You know what I'm talking about. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform, and there are very few companies like them in this area. None with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you, so get in touch with Nick and Ron about what is really important. You know what it is. It's the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, today, the extra point. We ask one simple question. What in the hell is going on with contracts for quarterbacks? We'll start with this. Over the past week, Jordan Love, who has had one full season in the NFL and has started 18 games in the NFL in his NFL career, signed an extension with the Green Bay Packers that will tie him with Trevor Lawrence to be the highest paid player in NFL history. 4 years, $220 million. Well, that deal outdid Tua Tagovailoa, who just a few hours prior signed a 4-year deal that will pay him $212.4 million with $167.1 million guaranteed. My mama said I should have been a quarterback. If you want to go per year, 6 players now make more than $50. Make $50 every time they crack their knuckle. $50 million a year. 6 players. Jared Goff. Yes, Jared Goff. The aforementioned Lawrence, Love, and Tagovailoa. And Justin Herbert. Oh, and Joe Burrow makes $62.9 million per year. Deshaun Watson, who has played 12 games in 3 years, has a $230 million contract, which doesn't end until 2027. Kyler Murray, who has won 28 games in 5 seasons, that's 5.6 games per season for those mathematically disinclined like myself, has a deal that guarantees him at least $189.5 million by the time it is done in 2028. I know inflation is up, but this is absurd. For comparison, I offer this. In his 20-year career, Drew Brees made a total of $274 million. Doesn't take Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt to tell you that averages out to $13.7 million per year. But what about Tom Brady? In 23 seasons, the guy many call the greatest player to ever wear a football uniform, who just retired 2 seasons ago, made a total of $317.6 million, which is almost identical per season as Brees. We're not talking about players who played decades ago. We're talking about guys who just retired, both of whom obviously are better than any of the guys making these absurd amounts of money today. And if there's one thing we know in the NFL and just about in any other sport, what goes up never comes down. Dak Prescott's contract is done after the season, and the safest bet in the history of bets is that barring injury, he'll get more love. He'll get more than Love and Tua. We wonder why it cost about $1,000 for a family of 4 to go to a single football game. That's not an exaggeration. And that's if you don't want a $15 beer, a $10 hot dog, or a $7 box of popcorn. Sorry, little Johnny, you can't have cotton candy. We have to pay for our 10th-rated quarterback $50 million a year. When we're on the road next week and watch the game at home and get our asses kicked by the Jets, I'll stop at the Dollar Tree and get you some stale Airheads. Remember when all the Hoodats were bitching about Derek Carr's 4-year, $150 million deal? Seems like one hell of a bargain. I just hope he'll be able to take his kids to the Dollar Tree when his career is over. I'll not be able to afford the Dollar Tree. Jerry, before we go off the air, do I think a K 41 will get a new deal this week. September will be here before we know it. I don't see that either side has a whole lot of they don't seem like they care all that much. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, he's out at practice. Maybe he thinks he's getting a deal done. I mean, that's a good sign in theory, but I don't get a feeling like they're really working that hard at it. I don't know. The answer is I'll give it a 40% shot. How about that? I do think something will get done before the first preseason game. Would it shock me if it doesn't? No. Would it shock me if he goes into the season with the contract he already has and they just cut him after the year's over? No. I don't know what's going on with AK, but I know he wants to be here. But again, the Saints realize that can you spend that money? Can you tie up a long-term contract? No. I think what they're doing right now, this is just a guess. I have not heard this from inside sources. I don't know this to be the case, but my guess is this. And knowing where the Saints are and what they see going forward. I've said this before. I think they have no clue what's going to happen this year. They could be 10-7, go to the playoffs. They have to rot it out with DA, and they go into next year, and a lot of things are status quo, and you find a way to sign AK to another one-year contract. Or they could stink up the joint. DA is gone. They have to tear up all sorts of things. And then do you want to be tied to a 30-year-old running back for longer than one more year? So my guess is this. I think the Saints probably have said, this is our offer to you, and it's an extension of 1 year, which means here's you got this, you got next year. The money's almost all guaranteed, whatever it is, 2 years, $20 million, whatever it is. But I don't know how you can offer them a third year unless it's very easy to scrap. That's my opinion. That's where I think they are. Jerry, A-Town says amen. Jerry says, get it done. Whoever does the money, give them a reason. You can't 2 year, $80 million. No, I hope that's a typo. That's not a realistic contract. I'm not being funny. I mean, the absolute max he's going to get, if you look at what McCaffrey got and similarly to that, I think the absolute max he would get is $12 million a year. And that's like if they just say, okay, we're giving in and giving you what you want. So the absolute max contract he's going to get is 3 years, 36, or 2 years, 24, or somewhere in that ballpark. But I think it's more like, I really think it's more like 2 years, $20 million. We'll see. But I hope it gets done too. I'm not being negative. I hope that it gets done. I think it's important. I mean, if this team's going to be any good this year, and obviously we want them to be good, I don't know how many times, different ways to say it. I'm rooting for Dennis Allen to succeed. I'm rooting for Klint Kubiak to succeed. I'm rooting for Derek Carr to keep it positive and succeed. All these things. Because nobody wants to cover and watch a crappy football team week after week. We don't want it. There you go. So I hope it gets done. Whether I think it gets done or not, I don't know. Just do it, baby. Just do it. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. All right. That is going to wrap it up for us here on this Monday. I thank all of you. We had more comments than usual. You know what? Let's make this. That's what we're going to make Mondays from here going forward. It's me, and it's you, and it's Gabe. And we're all going to talk to each other. We don't have to have a guest on Monday. This is your chance to come out. Whatever y'all want to say, whatever we want to talk about, that's what we're going to do on Mondays. Not that I don't want you to come back on Wednesdays and Fridays, because those are going to be good shows too. And you can still say what you want, and we're going to show them and talk about them. But Mondays, it's me talking to you, you talking to me. And Gabe in there too. Oh, yeah, but before I go, real quick. Fun stat for today's extra point. Gabe says, in 2019, LSU beat 4 of the 7 highest paid NFL quarterbacks. Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, and Jalen Hurts. And one of the other 7 was their quarterback, Joe Burrow. Gabe likes more comment Mondays. That's what we had today, and that's what we're going to have on Mondays going forward. And you can comment on Wednesday, because on Wednesday, Ross Jackson of the Locked On Saints podcast is going to be our guest. Although, spoiler alert, or heads up alert, His segment is going to be taped. So it'll be me, say whatever you want. We can talk to each other, have Ross Jackson's segment on, and come back and you can comment on what Ross had to say. That is coming in on Wednesday. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page and click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the live, and also get access to our short takes and Gabe Henderson's shorts. Love them. Stirred up controversy this weekend. I wasn't trying to stir up controversy. Just happened. Just because I think the Broncos suck. Sorry. They suck. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And you can find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Yes, A-Town, Mondays are for the people. Exactly. We'll see you Wednesday. Maybe it's for the people. Maybe it's for me. Maybe it's for everybody. Who the hell knows? We'll see you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.